We're going to talk about human rights in China from Tiananmen Square to today. And this is a wonderful panel moderated by Schoolland, who's an independent educator, writer, translator, and event organizer, the founder of TFT Events. Li survived 26 years through the horrors of Mao's regime in China, and this motivated her to a lifetime of promoting freedom and liberty globally through the organization of Austrian economics and entrepreneurship conferences and summer camps over 2 decades in Eastern Europe, Asia Pacific, and Africa. She arranges translation and publication of libertarian literature in China. That is a very, very brave thing to do, and coaches parents in raising liberty-minded youth. This is going to be an awesome panel. So I would love for you to welcome warmly Schoolland.
Once upon a time, somebody ran away, saying fast as I can. I got to go. I got to go. Once upon a time, we fell apart. You're holding in your hands the 2 halves of my heart.
Aloha. Aloha. You learned that from yesterday, right? I'm also from Hawaii, and here are my panelists. Usually, I've been to Freedom Fest for the past, 15 years or so, and I feel lonely here all by myself speaking about China, so I brought the team with me. So, more people, more power. This beautiful lady, her name is Sheng. She's a lady that CCP hate the most and fear the most. She's based in Toronto, Canada, and she's a fearless anti-Xi Jinping, anti-CCP fighter. And Mr. Zhou Fengsuo, he was one of the student leaders at Tiananmen Square. Probably you all saw him on TV. And number 5 most wanted. There were 21 most wanted, and he was number 5. And the youngest handsome boy is also from Canada. He's an influencer and YouTuber. His main focus is not to be fashionable or lovable, but to tell people the truth about the evil of communism. So today we're going to talk about something that you don't usually hear, because for example, you all probably know about China, about China economic miracles. But I want to ask Sheng, it was really a miracle or something else? What happened in 1979?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we are talking about the Chinese economic miracle, so we have to talk about the so-called reform and opening up. I worked in a magazine in China in the 80s. It's called The Management World. It's about the reform and opening up. So soon I found out the CCP initiated the reform and the opening up because their tyranny was collapsing. And also, they just loosened the iron chain from people's hands and feet, but not from here. They still chained people's necks, and so people couldn't listen or see or talk or even think. And Deng Xiaoping said that the reform and the opening up was like to cross the river by touching the stones. Then what I found out is the stones was placed by the CCP. And the CCP was standing on the bridge. And their family members and their wealth was transported to the west from the bridge. And they just allow people to stay in the river and to feel and to touch the stones and to continue to work. And then I decided to leave. I left the magazine job, and I planned to come to United States. But sorry, my visa application was rejected 3 times. Then I decided to go to Canada. While I was waiting for my student visa, the Tiananmen massacre occurred, and I was part of the fight. And I was at the southeast corner of the square, and when the soldier opened fire to the crowd, I was there.
Okay,
and I left China to arrive Canada in August 20th of 1989.
Okay, let's hear from our student leader who were there until the last minute. Zhou Fengsuo.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here. Today, looking back 34 years ago, I think in the democratic countries, most people remember the massacre now, but most people probably haven't learned enough about what happened before the massacre. That's very important. Millions of people in Beijing alone went on street to protest. It was the first time in China people were able to speak from their own heart, and freedom was within reach. This is very important because it showed what a different China could be, especially today when we are looking at the threat that China under CCP regime is posing to the world. China with democratization is a different China. That's what Tiananmen Square showed to the world. Actually, that's a very important force during the collapse of the communism in Soviet Union and Eastern Europe blocs that eventually led to the fall of the Berlin Wall. I actually brought with me this T-shirt. This was made on Tiananmen Square by the students in the last days at the protest. You can see here, this is the Statute of Democracy. It's adoption of the Statute of Liberty. And on this side, it says freedom and democracy. This is what we should remember today.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Terence, you are young. You probably didn't remember the 1989.
I was 3 years old.
You're 3 years old, but now from your perspective, tell us something about what's on the mind of young people and looking back at these events.
What the West got wrong about China is that they assume that China can be changed fundamentally. But the truth is China cannot be transformed. It can only be defeated. I know it's a pretty strong statement, but we have to learn from the mistakes from the over 40 years of engagement policy, the failure of the engagement policy. Despite inviting China into this global capitalist system, China did not democratize as people had hoped. Unlike other Asian countries, South Korea, Taiwan, instead, China grew stronger and stronger and now became the most significant geopolitical challenge to the world order. Of course, it is also the most dangerous threat to the freedom and liberty around the world. So how did it happen? That's the question we should ask ourselves. Actually, we created this monster. Not we, but probably you created this monster. I mean, the people in charge of governments and international corporations, those liberal elites, they have this misconception about modern China. What is really about? The China is a top-down dictatorial empire for centuries that was later ruled by this Marxist-Leninist organization.